The Kilari Observatory was humanity's newest deep space listening post, built to detect signals from the cosmic void. Dr. Maya Chen never expected it would instead detect humanity's doom approaching at faster than light speeds. "Multiple contacts," she announced, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "They're decelerating. Whatever they are, they're big." The holographic display showed dozens of objects, each larger than Earth's largest cities, dropping out of FTL on the edge of the solar system. Admiral Sarah Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force arrived within hours. She stood before the Global Emergency Council, her weathered face illuminated by the projection of the incoming fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at approximately 50 vessels, each measuring between 20 to 50 kilometers in length. They're not trying to hide. They want us to see them coming." Before the council could respond, every screen on Earth flickered to life simultaneously. The being that appeared was insectoid, its carapace gleaming like polished obsidian. Multiple compound eyes reflected light like fractured diamonds. "People of Earth," the translation matrix rendered its clicks and chirps into human speech. "I am first speaker Sith Tull of the Harvester Collective. Your world has been chosen. Resistance is unnecessary. Submit, and your species will serve a greater purpose." The message was clear: surrender or die. But humanity had never been good at either option. Admiral Hayes was the first to notice something odd about the transmission. "Look at their ship designs. The way they move. They're almost mechanical in their precision. Too perfect." Her eyes narrowed. "And that speaker, did you notice how it never blinked? How its movements were exactly the same each time it spoke?" Dr. Chen pulled up the signal analysis. "You're right. There's a pattern here. Their entire communication is running on some kind of fixed algorithm. These aren't just aliens. They're biomechanical, living machines." The revelation spread through Earth's military command. The harvesters weren't just aliens. They were predictable aliens. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was exploiting patterns to their advantage. Within hours, Earth's quantum computers were analyzing every frame of the transmission, every movement of the harvester ships. Patterns emerge in their flight formations, their communication protocols, even the way their weapon systems charge before firing. "They're like a computer program," Dr. Chen explained to the Emergency Council. "Advanced, yes. Powerful, absolutely. But they operate on fixed protocols. They can adapt, but only within predetermined parameters. They literally can't think outside their box." Admiral Hayes smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "And that's where we have them. Humans are messy, chaotic, and unpredictable. We break patterns. We do the impossible because we don't know it's supposed to be impossible. We're going to show these living machines what happens when you try to process the unprocessable." Earth's response was typically human: chaotic, multifaceted, and completely unpredictable. While the major military powers prepared their nuclear arsenals and energy weapons, hackers worldwide began probing the harvesters' communications. Quantum physicists analyzed their FTL signatures for weaknesses. Biologists studied their biomechanical nature for vulnerabilities. The harvesters, true to their mechanical nature, sent another transmission exactly 24 hours after the first. "Your analysis attempts are noted. They will fail. Your resistance is illogical. Submit." Admiral Hayes' response was broadcast on all frequencies. "You know what's illogical. Human beings, we're emotional, irrational, and we absolutely refuse to submit to oversized insects who think they can just show up and take our planet. Here's our counteroffer. Leave now, or find out exactly how illogical we can be." The harvesters' response was predictable. They launched their first attack. What wasn't predictable was humanity's defense. Instead of the organized military response the harvesters' combat algorithms expected, they faced a chaos they couldn't compute. Civilian hackers crashed their communication networks with illogical data streams. Human poetry, music, and art, transmitted in ways that violated every protocol the harvesters had. Military vessels performed maneuvers that defied both physics and sanity, confusing targeting systems designed to predict logical responses. And in orbit, humanity's quantum computers executed programs designed not to win, but to introduce uncertainty into every calculation the Harvesters made. As the first day of battle ended, the Harvester fleet had achieved none of its objectives. Their perfectly ordered formations were in disarray, their combat algorithms struggling to adapt to humanity's apparently random strategies. First Speaker Xithtal's next transmission showed the first signs of something the biomechanical being had never experienced: frustration. Your tactics are inefficient. Your responses waste energy. Your resistance cannot succeed. Admiral Hayes' response was accompanied by a grin that would have sent chills down a human spine. "Oh, we're just getting started. You see, inefficiency is our specialty. We're going to teach you machines a very human lesson. Sometimes, the worst way is the best way. Logic is overrated, and chaos is a legitimate strategy." The first battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was about to prove that in a fight between living machines and illogical primates, betting against the primates was a very bad idea. The hunt begins. The Harvester ships hung in Earth's orbit like mechanical wasps, their metallic carapaces reflecting sunlight in rhythmic patterns. But something had changed. Their once perfect formation now showed subtle irregularities, a testament to humanity's first chaotic assault on their systems. In her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Hayes watched the quantum analysis of the Harvesters' ship movements. "They're trying to adapt," she noted, pointing to the slight variations in their patrol patterns. "But look how they do it, still following underlying algorithms, just with more variables." Dr. Chen nodded, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "They're like a chess computer. They can account for billions of moves, but they can't truly improvise. They can only modify existing patterns within their programming." "Then let's show them how humans hunt," Hayes smiled, initiating Operation Mosquito. Across Earth, thousands of small craft launched simultaneously. These weren't military vessels. They were modified civilian ships, racing drones, even repurposed satellite repair pods. Each was piloted by a human whose only instruction was, "Be unpredictable." The Harvester fleet's response was immediate and precisely what humanity expected. They deployed standardized defense protocols, spreading their forces thin to counter what they computed as a coordinated attack pattern. But there was no pattern. Each human pilot acted on instinct, weaving through space in ways that defied tactical logic. "Status report," First Speaker Xithtal demanded, its crystalline eyes reflecting the chaos before it. The response from its tactical units was unprecedented, unable to compute effective response. Human movements show no tactical coherence. Combat algorithms failing to establish predictive patterns. On Earth, the secret weapon that humanity had been preparing was almost ready. Dr. Chen stood before the Global Defense Council, presenting the culmination of humanity's analysis. "We've discovered something fascinating about the Harvesters. Their biomechanical nature isn't just a design choice. It's a weakness. They think they're superior because they've merged biological and mechanical systems, but they've inherited the limitations of both." She brought up detailed scans of Harvester ships. Their hulls aren't just armor. They're living metal, constantly growing and repairing itself. But like any living thing, it follows patterns. Like any machine, it operates on protocols. And like both, it can be infected. Admiral Hayes took over the presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to launch the most human attack in history. We're going to give the Harvesters a virus. Not a computer virus, not a biological virus, but both at once. Something as unpredictable and adaptive as we are." The virus was humanity's masterpiece of chaos, a hybrid creation that merged random number generation with genetic mutation algorithms. It would infect both the biological and mechanical components of the Harvesters, introducing minute but cumulative errors into their systems. Each error would spawn new errors, creating a cascade of unpredictability that their rigid systems couldn't handle. The delivery method was equally human, a swarm of miniature drones, each carrying a different variant of the virus, each piloted by AI programs trained on human improvisational techniques. They would attack like mosquitoes, too numerous to swat, too erratic to predict. As the attack began, the Harvester Fleet's perfect formation dissolved into confusion. Their ships began moving in increasingly erratic patterns as the virus spread through their neural networks. First Speaker Xithtal's next transmission showed visible signs of distress. "This attack mode is inefficient," it declared, but its voice contained something new: uncertainty. "Your methods violate all known combat protocols. You cannot succeed through chaos." Admiral Hayes' response was broadcast on all frequencies. "That's where you're wrong. Chaos isn't our weakness, it's our evolutionary advantage. Humans didn't become Earth's apex predators by being predictable. We survived because we could adapt, improvise, and overcome. We don't just embrace chaos, we weaponize it." The Harvester ships began firing at random, their targeting systems corrupted by cascading errors. Some ships crashed into each other, their navigation systems unable to compute the increasingly chaotic movements of their fleet. The virus had done its work, turning their precision against them. From her command center, Hayes watched with satisfaction as the mighty Harvester Fleet began to crumble. They thought they could outthink us by being more logical, more efficient. They never understood that humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to follow patterns, it's our ability to break them. Dr. Chen's monitors showed the virus spreading exponentially through the Harvester Fleet. Their systems are trying to fight it, but they can't. They can only respond with pre-programmed antibodies and antivirus protocols. But this virus, like humanity, doesn't play by their rules. The battle for Earth had entered a new phase, and the Harvesters were learning a harsh lesson. In a universe of patterns and protocols, humanity's chaos was the ultimate weapon. The hunt wasn't just beginning. It was evolving into something the Harvesters had never encountered in their millennia of conquest, a prey that refused to follow the rules of predator and prey. Predator's patience. The orbital maps around Earth now resembled a broken spider's web. Harvester ships, once arranged in perfect geometric patterns, drifted in increasingly erratic trajectories. But First Speaker Xithtal had one final protocol to execute, what humans would call a scorched earth policy. "If we cannot harvest this world," its transmission crackled through damaged communication systems, "then neither shall you." The remaining Harvester ships began positioning themselves for a synchronized energy burst that would render Earth's surface uninhabitable. But Admiral Hayes had been waiting for this moment. "They're exactly where we want them," she said, her voice carrying the calm of a predator who had successfully herded its prey. "Activate the gravity wells." Hundreds of devices, secretly positioned throughout the solar system over the past week, activated simultaneously. Each created a localized distortion in space-time, not enough to form a black hole, but sufficient to disrupt the precise calculations needed for the Harvester's synchronized attack. Dr. Chen's team had discovered this vulnerability through careful observation. The Harvester's weapons require perfect synchronization, she explained to the Global Defense Council. Their computational power is extraordinary, but they rely on absolute precision. Even a microscopic disruption in their timing multiplies exponentially across their network. The gravity wells were humanity's answer to the Harvester's precision, crude but effective, like most human solutions. As the devices activated, the Harvester Fleet's carefully planned formation began to waver. Their synchronized weapon charge faltered as gravitational fluctuations threw off their calculations by milliseconds. First Speaker Xithtal's next transmission showed visible signs of system degradation. This is impossible. Our calculations were perfect. The probability of failure was..." "Let me tell you about human probability," Admiral Hayes interrupted, her voice carrying across all frequencies. "We're the species that looked at games of chance and turned them into mathematics. We understood chaos before we understood order. Your problem isn't that your calculations are wrong. It's that you're calculating it all." The Harvester Fleet's response was to launch their remaining combat drones, mechanical insects the size of buildings, designed to overwhelm planetary defenses through sheer numbers. But humanity had been preparing for this too. "Launch the Wasps," Hayes commanded. From hidden bases across Earth's surface, thousands of small, agile fighters took to the sky. Each was piloted by a veteran of Earth's aerial combat simulators, video gamers whose reflexes and unpredictable tactics had been honed through countless virtual battles. "You're using untrained civilians as combat pilots." First Speaker Xith transmission carried what might have been incredulity. "Your species truly has embraced madness." "No," Hayes replied, watching as the human pilots wove impossible patterns through the Harvester drone formations. "We've embraced humanity." These pilots have spent their lives mastering chaos in virtual worlds. They don't think like soldiers. They think like players in the ultimate game. The battle in Earth's orbit became a dance of chaos versus order. The Harvester drones, operating on complex but ultimately predictable algorithms, couldn't adapt to the human pilots' seemingly random maneuvers. Each drone destroyed created debris that further disrupted the Harvester's careful calculations. Dr. Chen's monitors showed the cascading effect of humanity's strategy. "Their entire system is based on predictive modeling," she observed. "But you can't predict what you can't understand, and they fundamentally cannot understand human improvisation." The gravity wells continued their work, creating a web of spatial distortions that forced the Harvester Fleet into increasingly disadvantageous positions. Their attempts to compensate only made things worse, as each adjustment had to account for the gravitational anomalies, the debris field, and the erratic movements of human fighters. "Your species operates against all logical principles," First Speaker Xith transmitted, its voice now showing clear signs of degradation. "Your tactics waste energy. Your strategies defy optimization. Your very existence contradicts efficient design." Admiral Hayes allowed herself a cold smile. "That's because we're not designed. We're evolved. We're the product of billions of years of trial and error, of adapting to chaos and making it our own. We don't need our universe to make sense. We just need it to be interesting." The battle had become a test of endurance, but this too played to humanity's strengths. While the Harvester's systems struggled to maintain coherence under the strain of constant adaptation, human pilots remained fresh, energized by the challenge and the adrenaline of real combat. "Your resistance is futile," First Speaker Xith transmitted, though its voice now carried a note of uncertainty. "We have conquered thousands of worlds. We cannot be defeated by chaos." "That's where you're wrong," Hayes responded. "Chaos isn't our weakness. It's our legacy. And now it's time to show you exactly what happens when humanity decides to embrace its heritage as the universe's agents of chaos." Pack tactics. Deep in the secure bunker beneath Geneva, Dr. Chen studied the real-time data streaming from the battlefield above. The Harvester Fleet's once impenetrable formation had fractured into isolated clusters, their biomechanical systems struggling against humanity's viral assault and gravitational traps. But victory wasn't assured yet. Cornered predators were often the most dangerous. "They're adapting faster than expected," she reported to Admiral Hayes. "Their distributed intelligence is learning from each defeat, albeit in their own rigid way. They're developing countermeasures to our chaos." Hayes nodded, her expression grim. "Then it's time for Phase 4. Send the signal." Across Earth's surface, in hidden bunkers and undersea bases, humanity's final gambit began. Thousands of quantum-encrypted messages activated sleeper cells of a different kind, research teams that had been working in isolation, developing unique approaches to fighting the Harvesters. Each team had been given the same goal but no knowledge of the other's work, ensuring their solutions would be as diverse as humanity itself. "You see," Hayes broadcast to the increasingly erratic First Speaker, "while you've been focusing on our obvious attacks, we've been preparing something special. Humanity's greatest strength isn't just our chaos, it's our diversity." From launch sites around the globe, new weapons joined the battle. From India came swarms of nanobots programmed with evolved algorithms based on ant colonies. Russian scientists launched electromagnetic pulse generators that mimic the patterns of human brain waves, designed to confuse the harvester's neural networks. Brazilian engineers deployed autonomous drones that used modified predator-prey algorithms from their rainforest studies. Each weapon was different, each strategy unique, but all shared one crucial feature. They were unpredictable in ways that built upon each other, creating cascading patterns of chaos that even humanity's quantum computers couldn't fully model. First speaker Sith Tal's next transmission showed visible signs of systemic breakdown. This is not warfare as we understand it. Your species, your methods violate all known principles of combat evolution. That's because we're not fighting a war, Hayes responded. We're hunting. And humans? We're persistence hunters. We don't just fight. We pursue, we adapt, we outlast. Each of us differently, but all of us together. The battle above Earth had transformed into something unprecedented. The harvester ships, trying to counter multiple unique attack vectors simultaneously, began to show signs of systemic collapse. Their attempts to adapt to one threat left them vulnerable to others, creating a cascading failure that spread through their neural networks. Dr. Chen's monitors tracked the deterioration of the harvester fleet's cohesion. Their shared intelligence is working against them now, she observed. Each ship is receiving conflicting adaptation protocols. They can't decide which threat to prioritize because their logic can't handle multiple optimal solutions. In orbit, the scene was spectacular. Harvester ships fired at phantom targets, their targeting systems confused by Brazilian biomimetic drones. Others found their living metal hulls being reconstructed at the molecular level by Indian nanobots, transforming into abstract sculptures that defied their original design. The Russian neural disruptors caused others to execute impossible maneuvers, their biomechanical systems interpreting human brainwave patterns as combat commands. Your species, first speaker Sith Tal transmitted, its voice now a disturbing mixture of mechanical and organic distortion. You are not merely chaotic. You are collectively chaotic. Each human component operates independently yet somehow maintains coherence without central control. This defies all known organizational principles. Admiral Hayes allowed herself a predatory smile. That's humanity for you. We're pack hunters who can't even agree on what to have for dinner, but threaten our world. We'll show you just how dangerous uncoordinated coordination can be. The true genius of humanity's strategy was becoming clear. While each human weapon and tactic was formidable, their real power lay in their interaction. The harvesters couldn't adapt to one threat without becoming more vulnerable to others. Every defense they mounted created new weaknesses for humanity's diverse arsenal to exploit. Look at their formation, Dr. Chen pointed to her displays. They're trying to establish a new defensive pattern, but each ship is responding differently to our attacks. Their collective intelligence is fragmenting. Just like we planned. Hayes nodded. They thought their distributed consciousness was an advantage, that it made them adaptable. They never considered that giving every ship the ability to think independently would make them vulnerable to information chaos. The battle had entered its final phase, but humanity wasn't done yet. As the harvester fleet struggled to maintain coherence, Hayes gave the order for humanity's final surprise, one that would prove once and for all why Earth's species had evolved to become the apex predator of their world. Evolution's edge. The final phase of humanity's defense began not with a bang, but with silence. Every human weapon system, every fighter, every gravity well suddenly went quiet. In the command bunker, Admiral Hayes watched as confusion rippled through the damaged harvester fleet. Your surrender is accepted. First speaker Sith Tal transmitted, its voice still distorted but carrying a note of what might have been relief. Your resistance was admirable, but ultimately futile. Prepare for harvesting. Dr. Chen looked up from her monitors, a rare smile crossing her face. They took the bait. They're exactly where we want them. Hayes nodded and opened a channel to the harvester fleet. You know, there's something fascinating about Earth's history that you should understand. Every apex predator, every dominant species thought they were invincible, right until they met something they couldn't adapt to fast enough. As she spoke, thousands of small objects began powering up throughout the solar system. They had been there all along, disguised as debris from the battle, their energy signatures masked by the chaos of combat. The dinosaurs ruled Earth for millions of years, Hayes continued, her voice carrying the weight of evolutionary history. They were bigger, stronger, and more numerous than any other species. But they couldn't adapt to sudden change. Mammals could. We could. Because that's what we do. We survive. The objects revealed themselves as quantum entanglement devices, each one linked to a specific portion of spacetime. Dr. Chen's team had discovered that the harvester's biomechanical nature made them particularly vulnerable to quantum uncertainty. Their very existence relied on maintaining precise quantum states. Your species continues to behave illogically. First speaker Xithtal responded. Victory is impossible. Why do you persist? Because that's what humans do, Hayes replied. We persisted when we were just prey on the African savanna. We persisted through ice ages and natural disasters. We persisted through our own near extinctions. And now we're going to show you exactly why persistence predators are the most dangerous hunters of all. The quantum devices activated simultaneously, creating a web of entangled spacetime that encompassed the entire harvester fleet. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. The harvester's biomechanical systems, dependent on quantum precision, began to experience reality itself differently in each section of their ships. What is this? First speaker Xithtal's transmission became increasingly erratic. Our systems, reality itself is becoming uncertain. Welcome to the quantum realm, Dr. Chen transmitted, where uncertainty isn't a bug, it's a fundamental feature. Your perfect systems require perfect quantum states. We've just introduced them to quantum chaos. The harvester ships began to break down at the fundamental level. Their living metal, unable to maintain quantum coherence, started shifting between multiple possible states simultaneously. Their neural networks, faced with processing multiple quantum realities at once, began to fail. This is humanity's true weapon, Hayes declared. Not our technology, not our tactics, but our understanding of imperfection. We evolved in a quantum universe where uncertainty and adaptation aren't just strategies, they're the fundamental rules of existence. First speaker Xithtal's final transmission was fragmented, its once perfect consciousness dissolving into quantum uncertainty. How can you accept such chaos? How can you function in a universe without perfect order? Admiral Hayes' response was heard not just by the dying harvester fleet, but was broadcast across human space as a testament to humanity's ultimate victory. Because we never tried to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. We evolved to thrive in the chaos, to make uncertainty our ally. We're not just survivors, we're chaos incarnate, and we've just shown you why that makes us the most dangerous species you've ever encountered. The harvester fleet, once the terror of countless civilizations, dissolved into quantum probability clouds, their perfect systems unable to maintain coherence in a deliberately uncertain universe. As the last ships faded from normal spacetime, Dr. Chen's monitors recorded one final fascinating detail. The quantum dissolution wasn't destroying the harvesters, but transforming them, forcing their rigid systems to evolve or cease to exist. In the aftermath, as humanity began to rebuild and prepare for whatever might come next, Admiral Hayes stood before the Global Defense Council one last time. Today we proved something that our ancestors knew instinctively, that imperfection is not weakness, that chaos is not failure. We won not because we were stronger or more advanced, but because we never forgot what it means to be human, adaptable, unpredictable, and absolutely unwilling to submit to any force that threatens our existence. The victory over the harvesters marked humanity's emergence as a major power in the galaxy, but more importantly, it served as a reminder of what made humans unique in the cosmos. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our fundamental nature as creatures who had evolved to turn chaos into advantage, uncertainty into opportunity, and apparent weakness into unprecedented strength. The stars above Earth shone on a changed world, one that had faced its greatest challenge and emerged triumphant by embracing the very qualities that made us human. In the end, it wasn't perfection that saved humanity, but our glorious chaotic imperfection.